At this point, you should have already watched my video about some clarifications about essay number 3. You should also have looked at the document for the principles of writing a thesis statement. Now again, the principles are, first of all, that a strong thesis statement is clear, so you're not hiding behind fancy words or confusing phrasings. So a really unclear thesis statement basically just throws a bunch of ideas and a bunch of fancy words at a reader, hoping to just overwhelm them and make them give up and create something like a thought that goes, oh, this looks really smart, so you must be really smart. We're not practicing that. In our class, we are practicing writing thesis statements that are as clear as possible. So the second principle is being direct. This means don't hide behind confusing phrasing. That's part of it. It's related to clarity. But also, don't go beyond just asking a question. You already have the question. It's the essay assignment. So your thesis needs to be an answer to that question. And this is original. This is your own idea. It's your own opinion based on the evidence in front of you. And the third principle is that a strong thesis is supportable with evidence. Here's my rule. When I look at an argument, I never have in my mind a list of approved arguments. That's not how it works. I am willing to be convinced of any argument. However, your job is, if you have that argument, you have to persuade me. You have to convince me. Some of the strongest papers have an argument that I don't agree with, at least at the very beginning. And then, as the writer goes along, they pull me over to their side, and that is fine. All right, so you have those principles already. You have the worksheet with them listed out with some clarification and some examples of an unclear argument, an indirect argument, and an argument that cannot be supported within a certain amount of space, right? So for that one, the example was, since the dawn of time, men have oppressed women. So to argue that, to prove that, you would have to spend at least 10 books. You would have to write an entire book on what time is. You'd have to write an entire book on when the dawn of time was. You would have to cover every place in the entire world at all times, right? You'd have to keep going. It's a rabbit hole. All right, so keep your arguments aesthetic. So you have those principles in front of you. Now I want to talk about fake thesis statements. These are thesis statements that actually are not a position. They're meant to fool you into thinking that a person has a position. So the first one to keep an eye out for, and I talked about it quickly already, is a question. A question is a useful starting point. However, your argument, your thesis, needs to answer a question. All right, so if you just have an argument, a thesis statement that is a question, it's not an argument yet. It's just setting the table. After that, spend some time working through your position about that question. Now, the second kind of fake thesis that I want us to be on the lookout for is a summary. This is something that simply walks through what is obviously true. So, for example, if you had an argument that went along the lines of Neil Hilburn's poem OCD describes his relationship with his experience, with obsessive compulsive disorder. That is true. That is a summary of what the poem is. A reasonable person cannot take the other side unless they never read the poem. So the goal is go beyond summary. All right. So summary is a fake argument. The other form of fake argument is a statement of topic. This just says what the paper is going to be about, or what the writer is going to focus on. If you have a thesis statement that goes along the lines of, in this paper, I am going to write about racism or sexism, right? So what that argument does is it says what the central focus of the idea is, but it doesn't actually have a position, right? So what is the position on racism or sexism or the poetry or mental health, right? So an argument goes beyond that. So again, your three main kinds of fake thesis statements. Now these are fake, so they would actually receive an F on a paper. So the three main ones are questions, right, or just the question that doesn't go any further, a summary of something, so a summary of one of the poems is a fake argument, and the third one is a statement of topic, so something that just says what the paper is about, but doesn't actually announce the author's position. All right, so you have the principles, you have three main examples of fake arguments. Now, for the rest of the week, you have a couple of handouts I want you to take a look at. You have one that is specifically on identifying fake thesis statements. You have a document with just the thesis statements, and then you have a follow-up document with the answers. You also have a thesis ladder worksheet. This is just 4 arguments typed out on the paper. I want you to take a look at them and try to figure out what's good about them, what's bad about them, and what grade you would give it. Then once you do that, take a look at the next sheet. So this is the exact same, so it has the exact same thesis statements, but it has my answers to it. All right, so one of them got an F, one of them got a C, one of them got a B, one of them got an A. All right, so, and again, these activities are meant to be relatively quick. If you are all confused about the information in there, please let me know and work together and we'll figure it out. So have a good week. I will see everyone when it is November, believe it or not. So Friday, November 1st. All right, so we'll be in touch and we'll be flexible with everything and we'll figure out everything as we go along.